People think that Nomad Capitalist started because it was all about money. Nomad Capitalist started through my efforts to go and find the places that personally worked the best for me. And when I did that, I started thinking, well, wait a second, okay, so now I can make more money banking over here than I can where I'm from. So why wouldn't I do that? And then it's like, okay, well, I like these people. I seem to get along with these people. We have a nice time chatting and discussing the world. And so I'd like more people like that in my life. And then dating. And then, oh, this place feels comfortable. And oh, real estate's a lot more affordable. I can actually invest, as I'm starting my business. And oh, by the way, if I'm doing all of this, why am I still paying all these 43% tax in the U.S.? Maybe is there a tax break, or can I pay less? If so, why don't I just go where I'm treated best? And so the lifestyle, the mindset is not settling. That's difficult. I think that's difficult for a lot of people to say, I'm going to make a conscious decision to unlearn everything that I've learned and say, what's really the best? Not what's been handed to me, not what my parents told me or my grandparents told me or what my teacher at school told me. What really works best for me? I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. If you're from the United States, the only acceptable response to that is, I'm sorry to hear that. Most people from Cleveland, Ohio, they just want to stay in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're happy in Cleveland, Ohio, and they have an identity in Cleveland, Ohio, and that's their thing. Go where you're treated best. I remember my father told me those words. I was 11 or 12 years old. We're driving home from the amusement park in the summer. He said, Andrew, most people won't tell you this. You don't have to stay in this state. You don't have to stay in this city. You don't have to stay in this state. You don't even have to stay in this country. You should go where you're treated best. And he saw that the world was changing in a way that many people would prefer not to acknowledge. He realized that if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, if you're someone who creates value, that the map was changing. Places like the United States, where I'm from, would no longer be the best places to innovate and to create things and to invest. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be in business, and I thought, should I go to New York or should I go to London? Should I go to Australia? What's the next big place? So I graduated from high school and I moved west. I enrolled in university in a party school. Quickly realized this wasn't for me and dropped out. What I did was what I always wanted to do, which was start a business. This particular business happened to be in the broadcasting industry. And I remember spending days and nights just picking up the phone and calling people, doing what business owners do to get their businesses off the ground, doing whatever it takes. In many ways, that prepared me for doing whatever it took to build this nomad capitalist lifestyle. But I started a business, and by 22, I was doing relatively well. And I remember, as a kid, this very libertarian upbringing. I was always reading the Libertarian Party stuff, and taxes are bad, taxes should be low, but it was all theory. And here I was, 22 years old, and making pretty decent money. And then it hit me, not in theory, but in reality. You owe this amount of money in tax. I said, whoa. And it shook me. It's kind of scary. For the first time, you've got to really file a tax return. You've got to do everything properly. There are penalties for doing this the wrong way. And I remember feeling kind of angry. I'm working around the clock, and this is a big chunk of my money. Not a little chunk. This is a big chunk of my money. It's just being taken. And so for a while, I did nothing. I kept running my business. I remember thinking to myself early on, in the days of the Vonage phone, remember those VoIP phones? I said, I could go and live anywhere and do this job. When I got that first tax bill, remember Dad said, go where you're treated best. What does that mean? But what I did was, I kind of dipped a toe in. I started traveling. I didn't go and move somewhere else with my VoIP phone and run my business from there and go offshore. But I did say, you know what, I want to know how the rest of the world works, because something didn't feel right to me. I felt like there's a whole world out there. So I started traveling. I started meeting people around the world. I started realizing how the world worked. I started saying to myself, this opportunity is better over here, or how come this business doesn't exist in this country, or why is the interest rate here, or why is this real estate cheaper? And I started thinking of all the different opportunities. So I traveled more, and I traveled more, and I traveled more, and I traveled more. And then I met someone, and then they inspired me to travel more. Then it didn't work out. So I kept traveling more and more. And finally, all along, I was paying all this money because I was still living in the United States. I kept paying all this tax. And then what did I do? I burrowed in deeper. Despite spending so much of my time traveling, I'd say, oh, let me go back to the US and invest in a business there, and then another business, and then another business. I started numerous businesses, 4 or 5 different businesses, everything from broadcasting to a financial services business to a swimming pool business. And each time I kept paying 40+% of my business profits in tax. Finally, one day I just said, I've had enough. I started selling off some of the businesses. One just kind of wound down on its own. And I remember when I went to sell the final business, I said, when this is done, I'm getting on a plane, I'm packing all my stuff, I'm putting it in a bag, I'm putting my house up for sale. I'm just gonna go and live what became the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle. I said, never again am I gonna start a business in the United States where they're gonna take half of my money. Never again am I going to relegate myself because of fear, because of a sense of obligation, because of a sense of this is what I know, to doing business, investing, living, and socializing in one place. I said, I'm not gonna do it. And I said, I'm gonna write a blog about this. And maybe, just maybe, somebody will be interested enough and they'll have me on their TV show to talk about my latest investment in Tajikistan or whatever it is that I may be doing. I said, I need a name. And I thought about it. I thought, what am I? Capitalist. What am I doing? Traveling, sojourning, nomad. Nomad capitalist. In my experience, there are 3 parts to being successful as a global citizen. You have to have a plan. You have to execute that plan. And most importantly, you need a mentor. Because here's what I know, having heard from tens of thousands of people, is that a lot of people are scared about what is involved to be a nomad capitalist. It's tough to leave your home country. Having a mentor a lot earlier could have helped me, because I remember stumbling around, traveling, but not connecting all the dots. A lot of people are scared. I know that for me, the process was gradual. What I've done in 12 years, you could do in 1 or 2 or 3 years, potentially. If you had someone to walk with you, if you had someone to acknowledge that you're a human being, that beneath the surface, beneath our defense mechanisms, beneath all the posturing, beneath the I'm a successful entrepreneur, I know better than anybody, I know exactly how it is. But the mentorship piece to me is what's really important, because not only is the offshore world a jungle, but it's a scary world just to get into. It's for most people, it's scary just to leave their country. How many people do you know who've never left their state or their country or their region? How many people do you know who've never been to Europe or to Asia or South America? Because that's scary. How many times have someone said, you're going where? You're going to be killed. Making the decision to do anything that's a little scary is difficult, but you have to push through. And so what I see in this world is people are afraid of the unknown. What if I move my money? Okay, well you can if you have $1 million, you don't have to move it all tomorrow. The beauty of what we talk about is take $5,000, try it out, and tomorrow morning when you wake up and your money's still there, and you can go to the ATM and you can get your money out with your debit card, and you realize it's still the same thing, it's just different and hopefully better, you can keep doing more of that. What's fascinated me over the last 12 years of studying this stuff is seeing how opportunities do change. Residence programs come and go. Banking options come and go. On a micro level, things are always changing. But on a macro level, things are changing too. Go and watch the movie Entrapment with Sean Connery, 1997, and look at the Petronas Towers in Malaysia rising up, and look at the almost third world village around them. Now come, 20 years later, where I live part of the year, and you look at the 50-story gleaming skyscrapers, you could throw a rock and hit 30 of them. The world that existed in our short lifetime, the world has totally changed. The places that were third world just 2 decades ago are now bastions of commerce and capitalism. They are places to live that you would have never considered living as a child, but are now amazing places to live with amazing opportunities. This is a buffet. If you don't want to move overseas, that's okay. If you don't want a second passport, that's okay. If you don't want to invest in some other country, that's okay. You may not get all the certain benefits, but you get to choose. And maybe that just means investing in some other country and making more money, or maybe that means you just go overseas and reduce your tax bill, but you get to choose what you do in your life. One of the things a lot of people don't know about Nomad Capitalist is that we've built a team. People look at this as a guy making videos, a guy writing articles. We've done over 2,000 videos and articles to date. But one of the things I'm most proud of is building out a team of tremendous people who are really smart and who have really learned how I view the world and how I want things done. Because to me, the number one thing that no one gets in business, and certainly in this business, is results are all that matters. It doesn't mean that we always get things perfect 100% of the time, but it means that the end result is where we have to strive for. That's the only thing that matters. It's not about fancy talk. It's not about trying our best. It's about, I want to save taxes. Great. What do we need to get there? And we have to do whatever it takes to get there. I want a second passport. Okay, great. Like, what does it take to get there? My vision for Nomad Capitalist was to be real people, to have my face out there, to be a real person that you could relate to and be like, there's someone who's like you, who's living this lifestyle. It's not some shadowy guy in a corporate tower. It's not some nameless, faceless guy with a blog. This is real life. This is your life. We have people who create our research projects like the Nomad Passport Index that's been featured in the BBC and Bloomberg and CNN and all over the world. We have people who work with our clients and execute their cases, who are literally sitting down and filling out paperwork, who are literally calling embassies and sitting on hold for an hour to make appointments, who are dealing with lawyers and vendors, who are making sure that the lawyers and vendors communicate together. One thing I think a lot of people don't understand is that if you've got a guy in, let's say, Hong Kong who's doing part of your plan, and you've got a guy in the US who's doing part of your plan, and you're going to go and live in Malaysia, and you're going to have investments over here. Like, all those things need to work together. And when you think of this as a whole puzzle, you realize that that investment you're making over there could lead to a passport over here that then helps you solve your tax problem over here. I guarantee you, if you take all the money you save by doing this and reinvest it in your business, but also give some, that lesser amount of money that you've given after you've upgraded your lifestyle, after you've reinvested in your business and taken more money, like, that giving is going to have a far bigger impact for you personally than what you're doing right now. If you want to be successful at this stuff, you have to be committed. You have to make it a priority. I've seen people who've spent 5, 10, even 20 years researching. They just need a little more information. They just need that extra push. And what I've realized is those folks are never going to do anything because the constant pursuit, the constant seeking of information was what stops them from accomplishing what it is, getting where they want to be. There's one thing I've learned throughout this process for myself and watching other people on a macro level, it's you have to set aside your ego to win. You have to have the drive that you want to succeed so much that you're willing to go into the doctor, sit, butt naked on the table and just tell them to examine you and fix the problem. You have to set the ego aside. If I look at my life now, being successful versus living in the United States and giving them almost half of my money that they waste, now I go out, not only do I give more, but I'm doing nicer things for myself because I feel like I've accomplished more because I just have more of the money. The same amount of money feels like more. To me, Nomad Capitalist is not about setting up a company overseas somewhere, or just about lowering your tax rate. Nomad Capitalist is a lifestyle where you are living intentionally. You're making a conscious decision that I don't want to settle for anything less than the best. My goal is to inspire millions of people, not to live my story, but to be inspired to create their own story and to live by the 5 magic words we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist. Go where you're treated best.